You're about to spend more on your bar tab. I'm going to break down how tariffs impact your wine and liquor choices. We're going to talk about the impact of tariffs on the wine and spirits industry. While I became a wine and spirits expert, author, and educator, I spent 30 plus years in the finance industry. Let's get right into it. The global wine and spirits industry faces renewed turbulence as U.S. tariffs reshape trade flows. We're going to analyze the economic stakes, historical patterns, and what's next for your businesses and your bar bill. As of February 2025, tariffs of 25% apply to all Mexican and Canadian spirits, including tequila and Canadian whiskey, following President Trump's January executive order. Those tariffs were paused until early March by the administration, but we are not out of the woods yet. In addition, other tariffs have been levied, and we are beginning to see retaliation in this new trade war. In response to a flat tariff on steel and aluminum from the EU's imposed a 50% retaliatory tariff on American whiskey, effective March 31st. In response to U.S. tariffs on Chinese products, China imposed a 10% tariffs on U.S. wine, echoing 2018's trade war. These policies revived tensions from Trump's first term, where $239 million in tariffs hit European wines, and EU retaliation slashed American whiskey exports by 18%. The Toast's Not Tariffs Coalition, representing 52 industry groups, warns these measures could reverse a fragile post-pandemic recovery, risking 91,000 U.S. jobs and $14.9 billion in lost economic output. Let's look at the lessons we learned from 2017 through 2021. During Trump's first term, he imposed 25% tariffs on EU wines under 14% alcohol by volume, forcing producers like Bordeaux estates to boost alcohol content to sidestep duties. Retaliatory EU tariffs on U.S. whiskey cost 4,600 jobs and $300 million in lost exports, with American whiskey shipments to Europe plummeting from $552 million in 2017 to $439 million by 2021. Importers didn't magnanimously absorb all these costs. Consumer prices still rose 15 to 20% for European wines, squeezing mid-tier restaurants. Trade wars cut both ways. When the U.S. taxed EU Airbus subsidies, Europe targeted Harley-Davidson motorcycles and Kentucky bourbon. This tit-for-tat dynamic now threatens to escalate, with Canada vowing to strip U.S. spirits from provincial shelves unless tariffs ease, a move jeopardizing $1.1 billion in annual U.S. wine exports. Projecting the impact into 2025, per John Dunham and Associates, 91,000 U.S. jobs are at risk under 30% blanket tariffs, including 14,000 in tequila, the only spirits category showing growth. If tariffs escalate, there would be a projected $14.9 billion in lost economic output, with wine and spirits contributing $476 billion annually to U.S. GDP. Tequila faces $2.5 billion in lost revenue, with 25% duties, destabilizing a sector supporting 1.7 million agricultural jobs throughout Mexico. Let's look at the impact by country. U.S. distributors warn tariffs could halve European wine imports, shrinking consumer choice. Retailers like Wine.com report 59.5% of revenue from EU wines, with Gen Z millennial buyers driving 64 to 68% of imported sales. Canada's threat to remove U.S. spirits risks $255 million in exports, while Mexico's retaliatory measures could disrupt $537 million in tequila trade. EU wineries, still recovering from 2021's truce, face renewed price pressures as U.S. importers stockpile ahead of March deadlines. How does this impact your favorite beverage? Tequila. Again, the only growing U.S. spirits category faces 14,000 job losses, imperiling agave farmers and bottlers. American whiskey. Export uncertainty stalls distillery investments, despite a 60% rebound in EU shipments to $705 million since 2021. European wines. Higher costs strain restaurants and retailers, with Burgundy prices projected to jump 25% from an average of $50 to $62.50 per bottle. But this is only the tip of the iceberg. The ripple effects of these measures have wider economic impact. U.S. wineries rely on the same distributors as imports. Weaker partners mean less market access for domestic brands. Bottles, labels, and cans from China, Mexico face delays, raising production costs. Over 70% of U.S. glass and 90% of cork rely on imports. The 10% increase in tariffs on Chinese imports will increase these costs across the board. And the hospitality sectors, still recovering from COVID, could lose $4.6 billion in revenue as bars and restaurants cut inventory to minimize the impact in this low-margin business. Upstream impacts hit rural economies hard. 1 million acres of U.S. farmland grow grapes for wine and brandy, and corn, and barley for spirits, crops now at risk if export markets contract. Oak barrel shortages loom, with French cooperatives raising prices 30% post-COVID. Napa winemakers report doubled costs for European oak. Your dinner menu and liquor store shelf are on the front lines, as a $50 a bottle of Burgundy could hit $63 a bottle with tariffs, forcing sommeliers to rethink by the glass programs. Tequila cocktails may rise $3 to $5 per drink, squeezing bars where margins average 18 to 22%. Geographic specificity means alternatives like California Chardonnay won't replace French whites, leaving buyers with pricier, narrower options. Bars and restaurants can mitigate these higher cost issues by providing hyper-local promotions, highlighting domestic spirits to offset import costs. They can use dynamic pricing, using happy hours to move tariff-hit inventory without eroding brand value. They may also opt for smaller pours, offering 1.5-ounce premium tequila shots instead of 2 ounces to maintain price points. Either way, your bar bill is likely to rise. As with many taxes, tariffs are regressive, hitting people on the lower end of the income range harder than more affluent consumers who have the resources to absorb higher prices. Younger drinkers, a key to growth in the industry, are most the vulnerable. 68% of Gen Z and 64% of millennials prefer imports, per wine.com data. Trading down has accelerated, with premium vodka sales dropping 14% as budget brands gain traction. 3 critical timelines. March 31, 2025, the EU's 50% whiskey tariff could ignite fresh retaliation, risking $705 million in exports. April 2025, Canada's threat to purge U.S. spirits from shelves may re-emerge, targeting $1.1 billion in trade. Third quarter 2025, domestic wineries face a reckoning as bulk import stockpiles dwindle, forcing price hikes. Ultimately, tariffs test an industry built on global connections. As one importer told me, "You can't move terroir." With advocacy groups like Toast Not Tariffs pushing exemptions and the dollar's strength complicating exports, businesses brace while hoping diplomacy uncorks a solution. Stay tuned.